You're tuning in to Gone.net.
Well, welcome back to another Gone.net. Not mobile. We still do mobile, but we're .net now. We've gone.
Yeah, I don't even think you realized that. I don't think you were talking yet until you come up on the screen, John.
I can't talk until I'm on the screen. Oh,
yeah.
well,
So
then you missed it.
Give your radio announcement again, and I'll shut up.
No, I can't do it twice. But
yes,
something gone mobile. Gone mobile. Gone.net. We're now Gone.net.
Gone.net. We do all the we do all the .net. Oh my God, you are full Leafs.
So this was a souvenir that we brought back for my wife because she likes mugs, and so we were shopping, and when we were at the game, and brought a mug back, but she's like, "Here, you can drink out of it always." Okay,
all right. Hey, it's free.
It's free.
Is my stream jumpy today?
Yeah,
am I bouncing around?
Yeah,
that's great. It's always something, isn't it? It's always something, dude.
It's always something on your end.
I know. Just give me a second. I'll swap my camera.
Just saying. I mean,
there. Is that better? That's better.
I think so.
It's not jittery on my. It was jittery on my end.
No, but now
devices again. Now what are you complaining about?
It's weird because the audio is out of sync with your video, but maybe that's just showing up for me.
That's you. That's you. We'll leave that as you.
Okay.
Besides, you started talking before you're even done the intro.
Well, I didn't know that I couldn't. That's dumb. Yeah, they should make it so you can talk at the same time. I unmuted myself. Maybe it worked. Oh, this fly is still here too.
Oh, John's been having fly issues today.
You get it? No, I don't think I got it. It's like, you know, when they're like young, small, and they never stay in one place, and then they just keep landing on me. It's the worst.
It's like kids.
So if I suddenly like clap or smack something, it's me trying to get the fly.
So I expected you to give me shit today because I'm not wearing a Jays hat, but I did that on purpose because this is my new Bills rivalry hat. But I do have my Jays hat here. The good one that I convinced you to. You didn't buy this one yet, though, did you?
I have the other City Connect one.
Okay.
I don't know if that one comes in. I'm really picky. I prefer to go for the fitted ones over the snapbacks. So
I get it. I have a fat head, so sometimes they don't fit unless I get the snapbacks.
Yeah, so. I mean, I'll still buy some that aren't, but I prefer them to be fitted. I don't know. I don't like the feel of the thing on the back.
Now, in keeping tradition, I have done one other thing for you today. Besides keeping the Halloween mugs, what is in my mug right now, John? What is in my mug?
I mean, it's probably sub-adequate coffee.
No. Hey, you got me to get the machine. So what's in this cup right now?
Oh, did you get your espresso?
Violence have I caused?
It's probably you probably made a latte with the good coffee or something.
Correct. I did. Yeah. That is exactly what I did so that I could get your disapproval on the stream. This is a caramel macchiato made with 2 Kona.
I mean, like
coffee shots.
Fine. It's just like if you like burning money. I mean, hey,
no,
I'm not going to stop.
It's great. It's great. It's gold in a cup. It's gold in a cup. So I guess we should talk about .net things. I know you're slightly removed from the news because you're Mr. Python now, Mr. Python AI.
Yeah.
He misses the .net. Python. I know he does.
I do. .net will always be have a soft spot or a special spot in my, I don't know, brain, heart, whatever you want to call it.
I often spam you with the code that I'm writing anyways, and then you're like, dude, put some formatting on this for me.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I do it. It's just things we do to annoy each other. So, Mr. Gerald Verslewis, I hope I always said your name right, but I don't do it on purpose. John can correct me. Usually he'd be like,
I'd always avoid saying Gerald's last name. I just say, hey, Gerald.
Yeah, well, everybody knows who Gerald is anyway. So he pushed the final details for .NET 10 Aspire in Maui yesterday, I believe.
Nice.
So that's exciting. I'll be honest, I'm not totally sold on Aspire for Maui, but I think, I mean, I've had dev tunneling for a long time, so where I don't have to worry about local hosts.
Yeah, but like, why not have it all just work for you. Like just connect.
Because I have a template that already just works.
Yeah, but
I have
not-
ngrok running, and it just works friggin'
well,
perfect.
that's fine. Like I think ultimately, if they can make the tunneling aspect abstracted enough, so like you can choose whichever provider you want, right? But I think it's great if you have a out of the box thing where you can just be like, hey, here's my setup. I got a Spire. I've got a MAUI app. It all connects to the API backend project that runs, and it just works, right? For all those people who don't have the fancy custom templates and everything.
Yeah, this is a problem I solved long ago, so I'm not sold, but that's all right. I don't need to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe you don't need it, but I'm sold that other people might benefit from it. So,
see, the concern I have too is that if I put, let's say I've got my web front end, I've got an API, and that's all using the shared defaults, right? What do I get dragged into with the MAUI app? So if I had a MAUI app, I don't want it to bring all the open telemetry garbage because, right, I don't need it. So it's I don't know. I haven't really tried it out of the box yet, so I want to give it a chance. It's just a lot of the things that it solves, I guess, is things that I've been solving for a few years now. So
I feel like when I was setting my pool project up with it originally or playing with it, like, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, because you kind of have like, it's almost like there's two streams of service defaults that you need to have in a solution, right? Like here's the mobile stuff and here's the everything else or whatever. And there's overlap, but you don't want everything from each of them in the other, I guess. Like,
right. I'm not sure if they're counting on trimming right now to kill off some of the stuff. I hope not.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, maybe there needs to be. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at the code again, but like maybe some kind of concept of like there's almost different like groups of things that you might want to apply something to or not, right? So you could kind of say, this thing applies to both. This thing applies to only one. That kind of setup.
I mean, there's nothing to stop you from multi-targeting as well. You could multi-target in the service defaults, but then is it really defaults at that point? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no,
these are the things I think about. And with that, .NET 10 is only about when's is it the end of the month or the middle of November?
Good question. It's probably middle-ish, I would imagine, but I don't know for sure.
End of month, end of November this year.
Okay.
So end of November is .NET Conf. Although I wonder if it'll be out before then. Who knows? So .NET 10's coming. Lots of exciting things in that.
RC2 is out, right? Is that true? I think so.
Correct.
Yeah.
I had problems with it. I'm not as brave as I used to be. I don't pull in the RCs like I used to. I also don't have you nagging at me to, hey, did you try this? Does it work anymore? So I have that luxury on my side.
I'm kind of curious too if my MAUI Docker. Did I push? I started adding 10 support. I don't know if I put that into main or not. It'd be interesting to see because like the thing, and in case others haven't seen it, if you go, can we add links somehow in this? I don't know. That'd be cool. We should be able to do that.
The chat.
Yeah. I guess
I put it after the show. Aren't you supposed to be watching the chat anyways, John? You're watching the chat.
There's nobody in there where you can.
Everybody's after the fact.
Yeah. So it's oh yeah, no, I can't write a message in there. Anyway, I have a repo that I've been kind of like slowly playing with over the last, I don't know, several months at least. And the goal is to always build like these Docker images based on updates to workloads and net versions and everything, right? So at the end of the day, I've got a few different images. You've got the base image, which is just kind of like they're all based on like the .NET images, the official images. So like you get a .NET 10, or let's keep it easy for now, .NET 9, whatever stable, right? So I have Linux and Windows versions of those images, and it basically takes the .NET image and then overlays the MAUI stuff you would need, like the latest workload or workloads, and all the different stuff that you would need for .NET MAUI, and I think a few other things. I don't even remember anymore.
Are they pre-installed?
Well, yeah. So like the workloads are installed, the Android SDK is installed with the right bits that you need for MAUI dev. The Java OpenJDK is installed. I think I add like PowerShell and a couple other essential kind of things that I find I always use anyway. I try to not make it huge, right? Because like I don't want to be super opinionated on like, oh, I use this random tool, but it's got a bunch of that kind of stuff, and so I use it. I use it myself, and that's the base image, and then I have like a GitHub Action Runner image that layers on top of the base image. And with that, what I do is I run that on like my local infrastructure at home here, and it basically starts up when I Docker run a Linux image of it or container of it. It connects up to my GitHub account and registers itself as a runner for GitHub Actions, and then I can do all my infrastructure based on those images. And then when like .NET updates and I'm like, oh, I want to bring in newer stuff to my app, I can just go, pull that image again, run it again, and it's got all the latest bits ready to go again.
Sounds like it should be faster.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good.
That's like the longest thing when you run a GitHub build. It's like, hey, let's install the workloads and
yeah, and I'm not doing like the other way that I could do it is always create an instance of that or a container like as part of that GitHub build, right? The action build. Like I'm doing it a little different in that the agent itself that's running is the thing that everything builds on. Like you could do it like you have a container or you have your basic build which pulls and launches a container and then like connects to that. I'm kind of sidestepping that because I'm like, I'll just run it as close as I can to what I need it to be and use that as a runner. So just for me, it's like the whole act of updating my action runner is super easy now. And then I have the Windows version of it too, right? Because like there's the whole Windows Docker thing you can do, that's a bigger thing. And so what I have as my own setup here is like a Windows core server running. And then inside that, I've installed Docker for Windows. And then that can go pull my Windows Docker containers with all the MAUI stuff set up on them as well. And then it's actually running like an instance of Windows as a Docker container.
You just don't have my iOS version, which I understand it's not your fault.
Yeah. So I've been working on that. So okay. the way to do that, I don't think it's in a PR yet. I think I have a branch. The way to do that was basically, what's the company called? There's Circle CI, I think like they do a thing, and there's actually these images, and they do run like full Mac OS. Oh, it's Tart, and which uses like Packer, and it's weird, but it actually is pretty good. And like the base images that they've created, and it's not quite Docker, but it's very Docker-esque. And that you define all of these like scripts and stuff for provisioning each step. So like if I want to do MAUI, it's kind of like a shell script that it'll run when it builds the actual Tart image. And that's building an actual like VM image of macOS itself on top of the base ones that they provide. I don't know how they get away with why. Yeah, like they do. I don't know. I think because you have to run it on a macOS host, right? Like you can't run this.
Sacrifice some humans to Steve Jobs' grave or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's all public. It's all published. Lots of people seem to use this. It's the like Circle CI or like the Cirrus Labs does it. So I think it's on the up and up. But again, you have
what we're talking about is a Mac OS Docker container is what we want. Apple, just let it happen.
Right. That would be ideal. And they kind of started this whole thing with like container framework and stuff. That's you get excited.
That's for
like, oh, is this what this is? But it's like it's still just like their version of Docker. Like it's still Linux guests. So this Tart thing, once you've built the image, like it kind of works like Docker. Like you basically just say like Tart run, and then you give it the image that I've published, and it'll pull it down all like whatever 12 gigabytes or whatever it is, right? Like it's it's Mac OS, right? It's a but then it'll run it and it's fast. And whatever they've done like to the optimizations of Mac OS itself, like they've gotten rid of like elevation prompts and all that kind of stuff. Like it all just works very nicely. So I haven't come back to that in a bit. I kind of started that work and got it close, but it's not ready yet. But once
Silicon processor, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's required, but it certainly is what I'm working on. But it's I don't know, it's good. Like, so the idea then will be the same. I'll have images that get published that are based on, Mac OS, a version of .NET, that it'll have the SDK installed and all the MAUI workloads and Xcode and whatever other like stuff you need to build a MAUI app. So same idea. And so for me, the idea is, I'll have a Mac, my Mac Mini sitting in my rack downstairs. And then whenever I need to update it, I just pull the latest image, spin it up. It'll auto connect itself to GitHub Actions and do all that good stuff too. Like, I'll make a version of it that does that as well. And at the end of the day, like, you can just spin these things up and the updates are done for you. The only thing I'll have to, layer on, or if you use it yourself, obviously, is like, you need to get like provisioning profiles and stuff loaded. Like, I'm obviously not going to build you an image that has all that
has all the profiles of the world.
Yeah.
I love how you say Mac Mini sitting in your rack. It's more sitting on top of something because they're like this big, right? But just semantics.
Well, yeah. No, I've redone all that recently anyway, so we'll see.
So my only thing is, for open source, I know there's people using Mediator. It's a project I've been excited for. I didn't invent the pattern or any of the .NET stuff. It's not with the Mediate R, which is Mr. Jimmy Bogart's fantastic library. Mine was tailored more towards apps, but I've branched out into pretty much everything. My goal has been to basically facilitate the whole promise of AOT and trimmable apps. I think that's what everybody's working on these days. And the sell there is basically, if you've ever written a MAUI app, or any app with trimming for that matter, the second you go to, it all works great in debug, you hit F5 in release, and all of a sudden things start crashing. That's usually a bad trim.
Yeah.
Bad trims usually happen because of reflection or dynamic code or whatnot, whatever kicks you in the face. There's many options there. So I've been going source generator nuts. So I have one even for attributes, just to get an attribute off of a method. This is a lot of deep reflection. There's a lot of deep reflection. It's a pain in the ass. So I found ways to get around that while still allowing attributes. Some newer semantics on how to register things without having like 400 things in your dependency injection. So V5 is probably coming out next week. For those that are using it, you're giving me feedback in Teams and stuff, but
is V5, is it going to have any bigger changes, breaking changes?
No breaking, thankfully. Okay. Other than it, basically you have to mark a few classes as partial if you're using one of the attributes, just because I need to source gen some stuff on top of it. But it works great. It's going great. And nice. For like, people won't have to do much. You just kind of get the benefits for menial amount of work.
No, that's fantastic. I really like I think it's hard to oversell the AOT stuff too. Like, I know that's been enough of a headache for you to try and figure out how to work around all those cases. But like for a MAUI app especially, right? Like that's the goal, level of service that you need to have, right? Like, you can use all these libraries and stuff. And we've seen over the years, like, performance used to be a bigger deal on older devices and stuff. I get that it's getting better, but at the same time, it's noticeable when things are faster when you're building apps.
The AOT, and especially around like JSON serialization, if you have any like large data sets, if you get into like the source gen JSON serialization, man, it cooks. It just flies on through. And obviously when you compile and release, there's no stupid AOT errors. There's no trim errors. It doesn't just crash randomly and you have to go into like your Sentry or your crash logs and say, oh, what happened? And it's like,
that's always the problem when you use like some other library that especially hasn't been like tested well or intended to be used in a MAUI app. And like, yes, it's .NET, it should all work, and maybe it mostly does, but when you've actually done the work, when you've actually done the work to make sure like it works properly there, like that is worth so much when you're building an app and using it. So I think I mean we've talked about doing kind of shorter video snippets on features and stuff of it, but I think like it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're starting a new app. I'll continue as I work on pool math more again in the off season. Looking for opportunities to kind of swap some of that implementation in and figure out how I can better use it. Because like we were talking about, I think on the last stream too, like there's just aspects when you're building an app that if you use some of these patterns and stuff like over the no patterns that I have in it currently, things just work so much nicer. Like the app just becomes much easier to write and not run into, oh, I got to think about this case now and I got to do this and special casing bugs and stuff. So like, yeah, go check it out. I'm a fan. I keep trying to think of areas that I can bring it into more. And it's not always easy in an existing app, right? Because it's like, well, what value am I extracting by spending the time to like swap code around? But there's definitely opportunities to get that value.
Metrics. I have all the metrics in there now. So now with open telemetry in there, yeah.
What I need to do then now too is because you've gotten like you're doing the API HTTP API generation and all the model JSON stuff, right? So like that for me is like an kind of an easy sell because I've got all that code kind of custom done. But when I've looked at kind of doing other things with my app and my endpoint, I started building proper like open API docs and stuff for my service so that I can generate whatever. So that I think is what I'll try next is try and use Shiny stuff for getting my web API, generated, the JSON types generated, all that fun stuff, and see if I get a little.
It'll be nice. It's fast. Yeah. Makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So I guess we're on to the dev portion of the stream where I put on the saddle, you put on your boots and start riding, kicking me for my typos and stuff. So what we started to work on last week was, I'll share my screen now.
Yeah.
And by the way, anything that John and I were talking about, we'll put in the links.
Yeah.
The description of the video.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to remember?
Yeah, I always do. Do you even check the studio? I've been updating all that stuff.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can see that. Right. Anyway.
Yes, you can. You're in the studio, the YouTube studio as well.
Okay.
Jeez.
Oh, the YouTube one. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. It's all right. Sorry, John. I got us. I'm doing all the. What is it? Director? My director.
I'm just happy you uploaded the new logo and now I'm like resizing it live. Fixing it.
I wondered what was happening. I could see something like, blinking in the background. All right, let's share my screen. I'm going to kick you off screen. There we go. All right, this should be big for the blindness.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. I mean the menus and stuff always, but yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to do about those? Oh, I know what I've done wrong. Yeah, I've done one thing wrong. Okay, fine. It's not fun if you're not making fun of me, right? And you got to do these things. It should just have an easy way for me to go in here and just change this, but whatever.
There we go.
Does that look good?
Yeah, it's better.
Whatever, good enough.
Passable.
So, what we've been working on is we were going to talk about an app that does. So this is common for me. I always get stuck in logistics apps, which I kind of love, but it's because Shiny does like the GPS. So pretty much everybody that's doing background GPS, I end up getting, or Bluetooth. If you're doing Bluetooth or GPS, look me up because that seems to be where I land. The hardest thing about kind of getting continuous GPS and the things I continue to see are like people doing SignalR, right? So they're taking SignalR. As they get GPS coordinates, they push it into SignalR. The problem is that some of those GPS coordinates, especially on apps, like if you're in iOS, it'll give them to you. Like if your app is in the foreground, it'll give them to you almost faster than each second. Like it just floods you with all these. Here's where you are. Thanks. I saw it a second ago. Yes. You can try and tell it to slow down, but if it's in the app, like they've deprecated all these APIs to kind of slow it down. Now they're just like, you figure it out. We're just going to keep giving them to you. Right. So a lot of people I see like just blowing up their back ends with like nonstop SignalR. And the other problem is that SignalR in the background, it tends to blip. right? So it's constantly disconnecting because, even if you're on a phone call. So if you're on a phone call or even like our live stream right now, I keep showing John breaking up because his internet's rough today.
Cheers.
That'll close the connection, right? So you end up trying to reconnect all the time, where it's like, dude, just push an HTTP request, but don't do it every second.
Yeah.
The other part of that is that in the back end, people are still doing a lot of response request or signal R, and then they have to scale out their signal R with like a backplane. And if you've ever tried to do that, backplanes are kind of annoying to set up. They're kind of screwy to work with. So people get into like service bus and event grid, and then you're into all this chaos, right? We start adding tech and more tech to solve the problem. So one of the things that I've been using for companies is called .NET Orleans. Orleans is an actor-based framework. It's really good at kind of taking those, instead of having like 10 microservices, you have this thing that you can spawn up a piece of memory, and it stays in memory for a set amount of time, almost like a cache. And you can run timers on it. You can listen to events in it. You can send out events from it. It's concurrent, so you can't have two things trying to update it at the same time. And these are called grains. And it's really a cool way of doing it, because one thing I can do is I can say, hey, I'm a driver. I'm logging in for the day. So it spawns a driver grain and it says, great, I'm alive. I'm well. We're going to set a timer to make sure, you're moving. We're going to set a timer to make sure that when you're end of day, we can say, hey, it's past your work time. How come you haven't checked out? And then we can also can constantly hit that with, here's my GPS coordinate. Here's my GPS coordinate. Right. And instead of always going, is this person authorized? What's their last location? How far have they moved? All that stuff. And then even getting the driver data out of the database, it's just there, right? It's just a piece of memory for that driver.
How would you then describe the difference between, like, because this sounds so, like, I guess how is the client then connecting to this grain? Like, my first thought is, how is this different in a sense than Signal R? Like, is the grain just responding to those HTTP requests? Is it a long-lived connection?
No. So to the silos, which we're not going to do for this project, we're going to run Orleans right in our API, like almost in memory. What it does is it's kind of like a secondary server that runs in memory, and it spawns those grains. Orleans is capable of talking to Kubernetes if you've got that level of complexity, and it'll be like, dude, I'm under some CPU or memory constraints, scale me out. And it'll do that. It'll create a new silo, but it makes it all look like one solid unit. And I think that that's kind of the great thing about Orleans, is that it deals with the problem, right? Elasticity. I mean, hell, you don't even need cache. If you can use this thing as like a cache, like a Redis cache, it's really good at what it does. I mean, it's not a be all end all. Like, you don't use it as like a place to store logs, right? You still use a database to store your logs,
right?
But anything that you need to react to in real time or have timers on, it's fantastic at doing it. So, kind of to just go back to answer your question, is really from we're going to code up our GPS from our MAUI app. That's going to call an HTTP request to our backend. Our backend is going to go, hey, we see your driver grain is Alan. I'm going to call that, and I'm going to push the GPS into that. And then
so
that grain.
Orleans doesn't really give you like the kind of front end or like like you're still doing an HTTP service that then talks to the grain
In front of it. Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So
you could
service.
do that over Signal R if that was something that made sense to do, which in some circumstance, right?
Right. And to put this out there is, we're not we don't need Signal R for our MAUI app, but generally like a call center. So let's say I'm a dude sitting at a desk. Sometimes if you want to see, like, maybe you've only got like 5 cars on the road and you want to see them moving in real time, right? You may want to just get those points as they come in. But even that, when you've got like many vehicles on the road, generally, even then, I'm still tended to queue up, like, request data from the server, like all the vehicles I'm watching, request them every 10 seconds so that we're not blowing up the server and I'm getting like a buffer of where you were last. Right. And even nowadays, and the good thing is that .NET 10 is coming, is when we talk about SignalR, I really only need to push an HTTP point in, right? So from our MAUI app, and I need to get a stream of data out. Like SignalR doesn't really do anything there for me because I'm just like, give me data. So with .NET 10 coming, we'll have the async streams, right? Or server sent events or whatever the heck they're calling them.
Yeah.
So I'll just be able to keep saying push out on that, right? So what we'll do is, again, we're going to start with our GPS thingamabob. We're going to take that. We're going to push it into our API. Our API is going to push that into a grain. The grain's going to broadcast those back out so that the manager can see them. And then the web app will consume that, hopefully by the time we get to it with .NET 10 server sent events. So we don't even need SignalR. It's just out of the box. Which, yes, SignalR is kind of out of the box, but not for MAUI. So
yeah.
That's where we're at. That was a long-winded explanation. Hopefully that made sense. Does that make sense to you, John?
I think so, but I mean, I think like, again, it's as we kind of go through this and see all the parts fit together that it'll start to be a little bit easier to understand, or there's specific areas that I'll be curious, how you're approaching with this.
So we're not going to deal with anything like databases or authentication, just to keep this nice and simple. Like this is more architectural for how you scale and how you deal with GPS.
Yeah, I think like the whole once you've got the data in your grain, like you can save it off to a database and do whatever, right? Like that's right. All kind of more obvious.
And we'll code some of that in. Hopefully we can get the Orleans stuff wired in, but we'll certainly get this. So we've got our GPS delegate. This is very shiny-ish. And what that is a way of receiving GPS coordinates, whether you're in the background or the foreground. That's why it kind of sits in something called a delegate. It's not really a .NET event. It's more of a,
and so with this,
way of doing it.
And so because this can go in the background, this gets kind of interesting too, right? Like you can't just necessarily interact with other parts of your code that would be happening in the foreground.
Right. So this is here to facilitate that. As a point comes in, great, we'll take it and we'll make an HTTP call here. So this is all registered. Send GPS to API. And we have, again, if you need to slow it down, we've got like a minimum distance. So you can say, I only want to see a ping come into my on GPS reading if we've passed, say, 200 meters, or if, it's been 15 seconds since the last ping. We're not going to set that up to start, but it's there. So we know we want to do this. We've registered the Shiny. So this is the Shiny way of add GPS, my GPS delegate. We'll show how to turn it on in a few minutes. That's more in the app. But we know where we need to send our GPS from. So I guess what we'll do is we'll just start with the most basic of things. Map post. I guess we're going to need an object here. So I'll add some models. And this is basically just so I can communicate to the server. So let's do, we want this to be a record. Records are good. And we'll say GPS ping. I always call it a ping. Longitude.
I like how it suggested timestamp there. You're not going to throw in the timestamp.
No, I am, and I'll explain why. Because sometimes these timestamps are indeed delayed. So what you get,
like you want to know the position when the position was, right? Not necessarily when the server received it.
Right. So with Android, it's usually, the timestamp matches within milliseconds to what you're sending. It's just the way Android works. iOS sometimes delays that and batches it up, and you have very little say in that matter. You just deal with it when it happens. That's one of the things that we have to watch for. So even when you get reading, right, there's timestamp in it, You would assume that's now, but you would be wrong if you did that. It could be any time.
So you need to actually read it from the GPS like update object or whatever from the OS.
Correct. And that's what's coming in off of here. So we pass that through. So we've got our endpoint, or we've got a record we're going to push in. So I'm going to do, this is a post. I always forget the syntax of this. Let's do the pattern. So this is GPS, and then from, I believe it's from body, and that'll be our GPS ping. Come on, figure it out. And then I might have to copy this from somewhere. I always forget that the whole syntax here. I believe we want async and then we want into a method. There we go. That looks better. Now it's not complaining. So this is going to take in our argument that we pass. And just for poops and giggles, I'm going to also put this here. Public record. Now we'll get into all that other stuff later for how we reuse. But for now, we want to do, we want to set up an HTTP client. This is a really piss poor way of doing it. I'm not going to lie, but it's sufficient for now, right, John?
Yeah. It's fine. You can move stuff around later.
So we've got our HTTP client. We're going to do, assuming some sort of URL here. And we're going to say send, or let's do post async. Oh, it has like, I guess I got post async as JSON. There we go. And we will send in the new GPS ping with the reading of position dot latitude, reading dot position longitude, and our timestamp. That looks right. It's angry about something. I'll figure that out. Hang on. Await.
It's not that.
No, I know. See, this is what I get for using different syntax. I get it.
JSON, does that take just any object?
Probably not. Let's see. IntelliSense me. All right. So once the URI, that makes sense. URI first, object second. So we'll get to that. So there we go. This is essentially all we're going to do. This is all we want to do from our delegate. Just push this every, 200 meters or every 15 seconds. We can get into that. There is cases where if we want to deal with offline, we're not going to deal with that. Very different. Hey, look, it even suggested a cool URL to use.
Post it there, see if it works.
Let's post. Why not?
This is like I have like my web API that I get like that's if you look through the logs ever, and there's like random stuff that people are like end up putting towards the server. It's cases like this. You're like, why? How did that get here?
So we have this beautiful post JSON, takes our GPS ping. We're going to get to a URL. This will work fantastic. Again, not for offline. We're not dealing with that today. You'll also notice I don't have a try catch. The reason for this is that Shiny does the base stuff for you. It tries, if it fails or an exception's thrown, it catches it, logs it so that you don't crash your background. And then your app doesn't end up in like peril and death because you didn't try catch. So it became really quick when I started doing all these background operations that people weren't going to try catch. And it's one of those places, it's on an event. Right?
Yeah.
It's on an event.
Yeah. So if
and you
fails,
try catch in two places when you can either deal with the error or it's an event starting. So I guess a lot of people, for all the try catches I see in code that I review, this was one of those places you really needed to try catch.
Yeah.
So I was getting a lot of, hey, this is crashing. It must be Shiny. I'm like, well, no. You didn't try catch in your code and it's an event.
Well, Shiny's in this.
So now I do it.
So therefore.
So now I just try catch for you and log it, which is fine, right? So then an error is handled. You don't need to worry about it. And 90% of the time, if you're in the background, all you're going to do is try, do the thing, catch, log it, right? So I do that for you. So that's why there's no try catch here. That is documented, but people don't read that.
Yeah, and I
So we've
mean,
got
worst
that.
case, somebody sticks one in, and you have two.
So we've got that. And we've got this beautiful Orleans setup too, which I wanted to show because this is going to come into effect either this episode or the next one. So if I go into my app host, so this is one of the things I think that Gerald and team and you, when you were doing the MAUI stuff with for Aspire, this is where it's going to matter, right? You're going to have your MAUI app here.
Yeah.
You'll get a web API URL. You'll push it in. So I've been doing something similar for a few years. I'm just going to open another project here so I can copy paste code. Nobody needs to see it, but I'm going to steal it. Okie dokie. Just give me a sec here. Stealing code. Hopefully stealing the right code. Come on. Come on. See, it's the wrong project. All these things, John. So if I go into, I'm just going to pull out what I do right now because I don't think Dev Tunnels is part of Aspire yet. I think it's coming. So something that I like to do is I already have a Dev Tunnel. I've been using Dev Tunnels before Microsoft thought it was cool. I think a lot of people did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is if the builder environment, just kind of like we do in .NET, is development, I like to push on something called ngrok. So I've already installed this library as part of our app host here. Packages. So Aspire hosting ngrok community toolkit. So it's important.
Yeah.
So
Which
I
is,
have
it's
this
cool that there's a thing, right? Because the ngrok fits into Aspire. So like at the end of the day, like this is I think what they're working towards, which is like pick the thing you want to use. If it's ngrok, fine. If it's dev tunnels, fine.
Correct. And one of the cool things here is that I've already got like a solid tunnel. I've got something called ACR ngrok, blah, blah, blah. So I can put that in a in a constant or a config in my mobile app and always point at that, right?
Yeah.
And basically what happens here is that Aspire is going to spin up my web API here. No big deal. We've said, hey, we have external endpoints. We need to wait for the database to be ready. We also need a connection string for the database. I don't even think we're going to use a database, to be honest. But we've got it. What we are going to do, though, is we want to say that when that API comes up, and I don't even know what ports, because every time you create an ASP.NET app, it kind of gives you a random port. What about HTTPS? I don't need to deal with any of that. I just say with tunnel endpoint, here's the web API.
Endpoint you have is like you've got a paid ngrok account, right? Because if you use like any of the free stuff, it's always going to be a random endpoint URL for your tunnel as well. So that that would have to get updated. So like I think that is one of the nice kind of use cases for having something that's baked into all this, right? Is like and flows through to your MAUI app. It's like I don't want to have to know that URL. Like fine, you've paid for it, you've got a constant one, whatever. But like just give me just pass it on through. I don't want a constant for it.
And I mean, what I was doing before this, obviously you and I have like a home lab, I have a server, I have good network routing, like a Unify that I can say this, if it comes in on this address, go right on through to this device on this port, and there'll be something waiting there for you. So I've also been doing that. I just find for when I'm doing this with, external customers or something, this usually fits the bill, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do acr.ngrok.app.
And I'm going to spin up a bunch of, flooding bots on containers here and see if I can saturate your home bandwidth right now.
Go for it. It's not live anyways.
Because I think I have more than you.
So there we go. I've got my base URL up with the GPS. When I start this service up, assuming I'm not going to double click on my settings. I think I've checked them in too. So anybody can steal my key right now. We'll have our ngrok key in here. And then that way, everything, let's see what happens here. Let's run our Let's run our HTTPS app host. Oh, see, it's still got where am I in here. I need to get rid of those. I renamed that for you, John. See where you couldn't get on me about that.
Very nice. Yep.
All right, so we've got our HTTP. Let's launch that and see if it complains. So right now, all we're doing is getting our endpoint up for our GPS delegate. Our endpoint is there. It's not doing anything with the data yet. We'll get to that. I guess I could return. Yeah, forget it. Yes, take control. You don't even need to ask. I don't know why you don't. No. So we'll let this go off and have its way with my machine. See if it crashes. See if I missed anything. See, I did miss something. I don't have my config checked in for ngrok, so that's beautiful. I thought I did. But
so
what it was trying to do,
your keys now. Come on.
Yeah, I got to copy them in. I should put them in secrets because that's one of the things you can do. Is you can have like a secrets here, manage your secrets. You would think I would do that, but that's more complicated. So basically, I'm going to open this up and we're going to assume that my secrets aren't there. Yeah, look at that. Auth token and URL is missing. So I'll plug those in off stream, and maybe next week we can get to that. So what we've done, we've got our database. We're not persisting that anywhere yet. We should, right? So what this means is that every time I will get a fresh database with it not being stored anywhere externally. So generally, let's fix that now. So with data volume, and I want to push that there. So this is to tell it to save to a Docker directory. Like I want it to save all of that stuff. So my database, so that I can back it up. Otherwise, every single time I come in here, it's going to blow it away.
And what happens if you're not using Docker here? Like, what's the volume translate to? Does it figure that all out?
Well, because we're in. So one of the things about Aspire is that everything's Docker. Like everything's a container,
just no matter what.
Local. Right. So it's its whole job here is this is going to spawn a Docker container. And a lot of people go, well, I can already do that with like Docker Compose and stuff. Yeah, but you can't Docker Compose. You can't really do if statements, and you can't really, like for instance, like we're doing with ngrok here. I only want ngrok to happen if I'm in dev, right? So it doesn't have to spin these things up. So I get all those if statements and directional logic that you just don't get in Compose. But with that said, you still have to treat it as if it is a Docker Compose, right? So I need to say, hey, we've got this database. I probably have to put a password in it. And I also need to say with lifetime. And what this is, come on, IntelliSense, container lifetime. And I want this to be persistent. And this will stop me from spawning a database every time, right? So
that's just kind of basically if it's going to remove does it do the whole container or just the volume? The whole container, probably, right?
So right now, this is there's two parts here, right? It won't blow this away. So next time it'll be like, hey, I already see this data volume. It'll reuse it. It'll check for the Postgres container name of what do we call this? Gone.net. So if that's not there, it'll spin up a new container. And the persistence is what makes it just stay on. Like once you've created it, don't try and tear it down if I hit stop. Because that's the cool thing about when you do Docker Compose, you can do an up and a down,
right?
But doesn't clear out the crap.
Yeah.
Whereas Aspire will clean all the stuff out except for your data volumes. So that's pretty cool. You also generally want to set a database password because if that gets blown away, stuff starts failing. So I usually put a password in here as well. So we've got our database. Again, I don't even think we're going to use it for this project. We've got our API. We're saying wait for the database. And we've now got our tunnel. So, and then we've got our endpoint and we've got our GPS delegate to broadcast in. So far we're in good health. We got a way to communicate stuff. What we don't have is the glue in the middle. So the glue in the middle is when we start talking about getting Orleans involved here. Now, I don't know that I want to talk a lot about the Orleans setup because it's just it's pretty involved. So I want to get pretty much straight to the grains. And the grains again are the things that are going to do. They're the workhorses. They're basically your services that do all of the logic. So let's go ahead. Probably what I'll do, John, just because that's complicated, is I will put that in the project for next week and then explain it. And then we can kind of just go through that. But today I'll make the greens. I'll start to make the greens.
Is
that make
it all? Yeah, I think so. Is it all pretty well documented though? Like if you're gonna start learning this on your own, you go there.
Yes. And then there's things like you can choose between how the grains are stored, right? Like you can store them in a database, or you can store it on Azure Blob Storage, or you can store it in Redis, right? Like there's so many ways to deal with it. It really is a fantastical mechanism for plugging things in. But it also means you have to set up a lot, right? And we don't want to go into, I don't want to go into that. I just want to get to the stuff.
Yeah. Let's see the code. We can always go back and walk through the setup of it later.
So one of the things that Orleans is big on is creating this kind of interfaces. It's not really any different than when we create as like a service library. So I'm going to do this. I already have, I think I may have already included some of the Orleans stuff in here. I did. See, good man. So the first thing when we create an Orleans library, or first thing when we do it, interfaces, is this is defining kind of the contract of how it's going to work. So I'm going to take the only thing that is required, and I am going to say in our CS proj, because I'm using central package management, I'm just going to do that.
Okay, so just the SDK.
Right, and we'll get into why we need the SDK. And so I've got this interfaces library. Now I'm going to create our grains. So this would be our implementation. And there's a lot of reasons for why you want to have an interfaces library, because the intent of grains is that you might break them up and scatter them amongst maybe different silos, or maybe different, if you want to get into that complexity, you can run pieces of logic in different places, or you can just put them all in one and, let Orleans deal with the distribution. So I choose to do that, but I'll still follow their guidance for making separate libraries for implementation versus interfaces. But I know why people hate it. I get it. It feels like boilerplate, but trust me, once you start using it, it's really not. So I'm going to do grains. I'm going to use my IMPL. Okay, and I'm going to bring over to the two libraries I need here, which is our runtime and our SDK. Bear with me. We're going to put it in the item group. So I'm basically just adding the two libraries I need here. I also need the runtime and the implementation because of stuff we're doing. So we're going to make this, let's call this a driver grain. That seems pretty easy right now, right?
Sure.
You agree, John?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Took me a second to think of what you meant by driver. My thinking was driver like a computer term driver, not the driver that we're updating location for. Like, what are we getting these printers in here for?
So where are you? I guess I'm a driver. Where am I?
That makes sense.
We're tracking me. So we're going to do a driver grain. And what this tends to inherit is I grain, and then they have like with GUID key, with compound keys, with integer keys. It's crazy, right? I think we're just going to pass in a name. Usually I don't suggest that you allow your app to create a primary key for your grain.
So is the grain?
We're going to do it.
In this case, this is like some unique identifier for the grain, right?
Right.
And so then it's almost in this case, like, is this going to be, would you make the driver identifier the grain identifier?
Yes, okay. I would.
Or would you do a compound kind of key with like, this is the GPS,
I would not do that.
Okay. So what happens if you have different kinds of grains for different purposes, and then but there's still one per driver?
I think it'll be best when we show the implementation of that.
Okay.
So first things first, let's get driver green here implemented. So I think I shared, no, I didn't. Why didn't you like that? Let's bring in, we don't need service defaults. We'll just bring that in. Okay. So now this should be all set. We have a reference. Ooh, why didn't it add that reference? Did you see an error there?
Don't.
What is going on? Green interfaces. That's cool.
Did you have that file open before and it didn't like update properly?
I don't know.
There's your
That was
project
wild.
reference. Yeah.
All right, it's on. All right, so we got our driver grain, and we're going to call it driver grain, and we're going to inherit something called grain, which has a lot of functionality in it, and then we're going to inherit our driver grain, or implement our driver grain. So we don't have any logic in it yet. We're probably going to take an object, public class, let's call it driver state, and we'll probably need a location, last location. Let's just call it location. Make it nice and easy. And put in public double latitude. I guess we're getting past time, eh?
Getting there. Yep.
So I'll get the brief parts of this in, and then we will we'll call it a day. Then we've got our datetime offset. Got that. And then for right now, we're going to say public location last known location, which I guess is nullable. Did I get that right? And now we get into some of the fun stuff with Orleans, and I'm going to explain this. Is they have this kind of generate serializer. I don't know why this is.
Okay.
Oh, it's mad for a reason. And one of the things, Orleans is tuned for speed.
Yes.
And you've used what's the other protocol? I'm trying to think of it now.
Protobuf.
Protobuf.
Yeah.
And kind of the gRPC. There we go.
Yeah.
It was escaping. So they do this generate serializer, and they have, it's kind of protobuf-esque syntax, kind of. So they have it where you have to identify kind of the ordering of how these things are serialized. I don't really like it, but they wouldn't do it if there wasn't a need.
No, I'm sure it's for speed, but like I'm already kind of thinking like, oh, what happens when you go to add more fields and stuff? Like, yeah, it gives you another aspect of like maintainability that you have to think about harder, I guess.
Right. So one of the things that they've got with Orleans is, so I'm going to be pushing in last location, and then they have this concept of state, right? State might be like how we store the blob. So my state of my grain.
Right. Yeah, because
state grain.
Your grain, I'm assuming, because you mentioned before too that like you can store that grain in any number of places, that means every time something changes in your actual state, you need to be able to serialize it, right? And then reinflate or whatever. If I don't know what all the scenarios are, but I can imagine like moving grains around servers or silos or where they're running or pausing and starting or whatever.
Right. And it deals like Orleans deals with all that junk, right? You don't really need to figure out much. So I'm going to pull in.
I kind of like to think of it as, and I'm not knowing the full context, but the way I'm thinking about it right now is kind of like a mobile app, the whole like tombstoning concept where if you wanted your app to come back in the exact same state that you left it, you could do that, and you had the hooks to kind of load and do anything with whatever state you had persisted. But then you also have to write that state out when the thing goes down and it asks you to. Is this kind of similar?
Yep. Actually, that was pretty good, John. That's pretty good. That was top notch.
So it's just like a mobile app screen. You just gotta save and load state.
So everything in Orleans is async, right? But you don't have to worry about it calling two things at once. So they force access to the grain to be concurrent. So an update location, if it comes in first, you call driver state and it has to wait for this task to complete. Some people don't like that. I think it's great. It's the way we want it. So I have this state persistent store. This is how they deal with kind of, is it going to store to a database? Is it going to store to a blob? I don't care.
Right.
Just save it. So I'm going to set the state of last known location to the location coming in. I'm not even going to wait it. I'm just going to say, hey, this is how we write state async. So this is going to go ahead and write to the store.
Care where it is, what it is, how it happens.
Right. And it's just done. And then for returning the state, I can just do, it doesn't have to be async on this side. I'm just going to return the full state object as it is. And that's our grain. There's a lot of other cool stuff we can do in it. But at its whole, this is it. And this is going to stay in memory. So as long as I keep hitting this thing, it's going to keep just staying alive. It'll never have to reload this as long as I'm kind of beating on its door.
So it's interesting to me that so I don't know. You said something about like the ordering of operations here, and like, so you're having to write the state even though it's going to ask you for the state. Like that's kind of weird to me.
Well, here's the thing: that state can be you.
Or I guess is it because you could, in theory, be doing something longer running, and maybe is it almost like checkpointing your state? Like I know I've made a change that I want persisted. Maybe like, when is get state called? I guess is maybe a better question.
Well, right now it's not, right? Okay. So this might be when I want to get the driver's current state. So this is just kind of a method I always add. If I can set state of some sort.
Okay, so this is a for you, not a for Orleans thing. You're not going to like attribute this or anything.
It doesn't require this. In fact, I could delete this.
Okay.
But it's really good to always, like, if I've got a grain, I should be able to read its state.
Sure.
Now, one thing you notice is that it's async. I can't make this a property. And the reason I can't make it a property is because that's not how we read state across boundaries, right? So if I'm running my silo or where the grains actually are hosted, on the other side of the world for whatever reason, that request is still a network request, right? Over there to grab the grain
property
state.
Doesn't make sense there. Everything async, right?
And then there's the case of how does that property, if let's say we were using properties, how does that memory propagate to all of the other silos, right? So that's why they just make it you get state. So fine and dandy, we've got that now. I'm going to run this in our MAUI app. And the reason I'm going to run this in our MAUI app is because we don't need the complexity of a silo. Like, I don't need to run this in a separate server with separate connection protocols. Like, we want to start small, right? Start with your monolith, because to break Orleans out of the API and run it in a silo, stupid easy if we needed to do it. But we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it today. So I think I put this actually on the MAUI app. It's not going to run well in MAUI. I did. You didn't even see that, John. Could give me shit.
Yeah.
You didn't give me shit. All right. So I'm going to take that out because we're not going to connect to this thing. We'll give that a second to update. Now I'm going to put this I'm going to pull in the raw implementation, which will bring our interfaces. And hopefully, if I've got this project set up right, I should now be able to do this. From services, now I haven't registered this yet. I realize that, but this is what I'll do offline so that we're not going through this the whole time. So kind of like we have an HTTP client factory, which you've used, of course. Maybe not.
Yeah.
We have our grain service factory. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here driver name. This is a really bad idea, but this is what we're doing today. Okay? We're just gonna roll with that. I'm going to do from
Fred
route.
O'Neill. He has a nice apostrophe in his name, so that'll be good.
For now, For now, this is how we're flying because I need to be able to identify it. So I'm going to get. Why is this not work? No, it's the grain factory I want. By the way, it's not the there. That's the one I want. I don't know why it gave me service factory. There we go. Grain factory. We're going to get a grain, and the one thing is you notice that this is an async, right? This is going to give us. And then I'm going to say driver name. That's how we're going to use our primary key right now.
Okay.
So I wouldn't like I said, this is like a primary key. Don't do this in production. This is us being lazy. Okay. So I'm going to get a driver grain here. I don't even know if this is alive. I don't need to care because as soon as I hit something in the grain, it might inflate that. It might say, hey, I see this grain is running. Why is this grain? Might be running over in Australia for whatever reason. So here is our get state and update location. So GPS ping is coming in. Of course, I've made this different because it's a cross buffer. So we're going to do latitude. Come on, AI, help me out here. Oh, I got it almost right. So close. That's why we use daytime offset. So I don't have to put UTC, man. Come on. Come on. And there we go. That is it. We get a grain. This is going to tell it load by primary key. Again, yes, we're taking it through the route. We'll fix that later. This is going to update the location. It's going to push it in, which somehow magically it will end up over here where it will write to its store. Voila. And that pretty much will do everything. Side, we got to do a MAUI screen next week to say, here's my driver name.
Right.
Maybe shore that up a little bit. I don't know. And then turn the GPS on and start pushing coordinates into our grain. And then what we're going to do is have that grain push out events. Because like I said, I can run timers here. Right. It's like a piece of memory that just stays alive, which is awesome. So as these locations come in, maybe I want to push out an event that's something like SignalR is listening to. Maybe we've got like maybe I want to watch you and follow you because I'm a creepy stalker.
Maybe we need a dashboard with a map that has everyone's locations, or
right.
maybe it highlights when somebody's driving too fast.
And what I would like to use instead of SignalR is .NET 10 server sent events, which is just an async stream to push them out. Less libraries, less complexity, just do the thing. That's what I'm thinking about anyways.
Yeah. I think there's lots of different ways you can go from this. And I think it'd be interesting to see a bit more of Orleans too, of like, you've got, this one grain, like how do we start stitching together other things? Like, is there, another grain that does some longer running operation based on location? I don't know. Just thinking about like, it'd be cool to see different scenarios and how you kind of architect them.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like right now, and maybe that is, we bring in the database to a point. You would never store all of your locations in grain state, right? Because you could get hundreds of thousands of them, right? Grains are like blobs. So when this state gets loaded, it loads up everything as though it was a JSON object.
So maybe you want to keep the last like 10 locations, hot so that you can do like, what's their predicted time, based on how long they have left on their route or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's fancy. We could say we want to know when we're going to get here.
Which,
by the way, I do in another app. I loaded up my app that does this. It's a fleet application I have, which does a lot of that. I think the key point here was to show people that Orleans is great for taking this kind of data, because once the state is loaded, if I keep pushing locations to it, it's going to stay hot. I don't have to go load up the driver's name, prove that they exist, prove that they're checked in, right? Like I could have ideally the state should have if I'm even checked in, to start pushing coordinates and say, hey, you're not checked in. I don't care about your last known location.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking of, like, maybe this, probably you'd want to push your location to whatever database to keep history here. But like, let's say you didn't, and you, is there a mechanism in the grain then when that grain is like, I guess it's the state when it's going down, your state is the state. So it's saved, right? Yeah.
Right. There's a, what's the event called? think it's when it's going
on deactivate. Okay, yeah.
And then you have on activate, which is when, it's first getting going so that you can, maybe there's some logic or some timers you gotta to reload. There's also several kinds of timers, which people don't realize. And I'll cover this really quick because we're kind of at the end of our stream. There's timers, which is your literal timer, right? It's a .NET timer. If it shuts down, it respawns when it goes over to, like, let's say a silo dies, it'll restart it at another silo, but it'll restart where the timer was. There's also something called reminders, which are much more like, they're more of like a scheduled thing. So if I create a reminder, it will run at that point in time, unless, if your whole application's down, what happens is it tries to reinstate all reminders and say, well, we're running you, but you're about, 6 hours too late. So you decide what you want to do with that.
Is that so? Is that something that, like, you can set the timer dynamically based on, like, so my thinking here, I have to add notifications to my pool app for reminders for, like, people can set, let me know if I haven't cleaned my filter in 7 days.
Yep.
So whenever they change their logs, I can say, this was the last time you logged cleaning the filter. Set a new timer for 7 days from now for this person, this pool.
Correct.
And then have Orleans deal with letting me know when to send it, as opposed to like some batch job that I'm like, oh, who do I need to send it to, right?
Right. And that's it exactly, right? So I might have, like in your particular use case, I might have a public task, maybe this is iPool grain, and I push in a maintenance. So I just pushed in a maintenance schedule. So I just maintained my pool. I did the things that the app told me to do. I might cancel the current timer or set up a new timer, or I might just say, store the event. And then when the reminder runs next time, I can say, hey, we don't need to run this reminder. He serviced it, right? So there's many options. The point is that when that reminder won't die. So if you've got your app shut down, maybe you're doing maintenance or whatever, when it comes back up, reminders are restored, but they may run late, in which case,
right.
Do you care? Maybe. If you don't care, who cares?
Not.
Right?
But you have control to decide too, right? So,
right. Because it's just a chunk of code that's going to run and say, hey, this is the name of the reminder. And we don't have that functionality linked in right now, but it'll be like, this is the name of the reminder. So you might call it pool maintenance, right? And then you're going to check the state and go, okay, when was the last state? Oh yeah, we don't actually need to run this.
Yeah.
Right.
They already did.
Or like I said, when that maintenance came in, we killed the previous reminder, set a new one that might be like a week further out. And I mean, it's still time-based, but we set it a week out, boom, that thing kicks in and you send your notification, because there's nothing here. Like I've injected this persistent state, but you can put in a database connection. You can put in, push notification, email, yada, yada. It's just another service. The key difference between a grain and an actual service set of code is that this one will kind of maintain context and state based on that context.
Yeah. No, this is, I mean, there's all sorts of crazy things I can think of, like even in my own use case, right? So it's neat to see this.
It's beautiful.
I have to think more about it. Because like you said, like this can all be backed by like a Redis cache or something too, right? Like, so there's even like things that's like, oh, I know a user is active in the app, maybe it's neat to spin up a grain and kind of hold the state around. That's expensive for me to keep querying every web request they hit, which is what I do now. And it's like, if I could, kind of have a grain that times out after they haven't touched it in a while. But when they're logging stuff and doing stuff, which they might do for 10 minutes a day, that's all hot and ready. Like that's kind of an interesting way to think of things too.
And actually, to put that out there, I actually do in one of my apps in a company I work with. We actually do have like a cache grain, right? So it says, here's your object, keep it, set a timeout on it, right? So you can set stuff like, if this isn't hit for 10 minutes, then it can shut itself off and clear a state, right? Because there's nothing that says I have to write to any store, right? I could just have a variable here, store that variable, and when this grain dies, everything in memory evaporates.
Yeah.
So it's all cool. People really should take advantage of this because it's a freebie. Microsoft should advertise it more. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, a bit of setup, which I will do offline. I'll kind of wire this. I'm probably actually going to wire this up against Redis because Redis spins up nicely from Aspire. And then we can actually see all the dashboard and stuff. And I think we'll get into that next week. But I think this was a good start. We babbled a lot.
No, absolutely.
Just going over time now, but I will commit this and start doing some little updates here so we don't have to babble more next week.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I think that does it for this week. We'll keep going next week. I'll have more questions and ideas. And yeah, thanks. We'll see y'all next time.
See y'all next time.